Good morning, everybody. Great to see so many people here in the room and outside there in the world. So what I would like to talk about is the Digital Twin Energy Project, a project that we work jointly together with Gothenburg Energy and many other representatives and stakeholders spread all over the city. And what I would like to highlight here is how to use a digital twin as a tool for increased stakeholder collaboration, efficiency, and coordination. So what we will do, or I will do, is share experience from the last 2 years in collaboration with the different partners. So what we are all aware on a global, European, as well as local and regional levels, there are different strategies in place. The European Union came up with a renovation wave. We have the initiative to reduce the carbon emissions by 55% until 2030. And we have also on all local levels, regional levels, we have many, many cities, regions that came up with their own plans, how to achieve energy efficiency, decarbonization, introduction of renewable energies. And this is where we would like to talk about these kind of digital twins and how digital twins can help these stakeholders. So what we have on the Sweden level is that the government decided to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions by 63%. As you can see, the share of renewables have to be increased to 65%, and this is based on 1919 until 2030. And the energy efficiency should also increase by 50% based on 2005 levels. To become the overall goal is to become carbon neutral in 2045. This is the goal for Sweden. We have also very ambitious goals for the city of Gothenburg, the city where we are in today. And this requires that here you see the goal for 2030 to reduce greenhouse gas emissions yearly by roughly 8% per year. And what we also see, we have a very ambitious environmental and climate plan that has been introduced by the city of Gothenburg to reduce the energy demand by 30% in residential areas, and a very ambitious transport goal as well that we might hear about a little bit more, to reduce the transport-related greenhouse gas emissions by 90% compared to 2010, and reducing, converting the fossil-based generation plants to renewables. So completely phase out fossil fuels by 2030. So this is what you can see. One of the major challenges within the city of Gothenburg, which is an industrial city by history, and still the largest harbor in Scandinavia, taking a lot of fossil energy carriers, transfer them into other products. The decarbonization of our energy system here in the city is really key for climate adaptation in the city. The transformation of a sustainable or towards a sustainable and smart system is key, but we have to take on board all the different stakeholders. And this is where we try to use a digital twin. One of the major areas that we have to work with is the existing building stock. So even if we are looking forward to 2050, 80% of the buildings that have been built before the year 2000 are also the buildings that we in the future have to deal with. So the existing building stock, how we heat, cool, and provide electricity, and how we transfer them to make them more sustainable is one of the major challenges that we are working with. So in practice, what we do see is that we have all these challenges ahead of us, but in practice, what we do see is that the knowledge exists out there is very often scattered. Different stakeholders know and own different questions and have different information. What we have seen, and Bart this morning also explained this, we have sequential decision-making processes. So one unit is taking a decision, handing over to the other one, instead of really sitting together and coming up with joint conclusions. We have sometimes competing business logics, even within one entity or organization. Let's call the city an organization. We have the different divisions within the city, but we have also the city-owned companies, and they have different business models, and all of them have to really agree and work hand in hand, which they don't do today. But on the other side, we have the opportunities with the digital twins, and we have also an opportunity with building stock models that have been built, and we have worked on this for more than a decade, I would say, especially also in Gothenburg. So what you see is the digital twin as a vehicle to facilitate stakeholder engagement, dialogue, collaboration, and last but not least, decision-making based on facts. And this is what it is about. A digital twin, therefore, needs to be easy to use, facilitate the decision-making processes as a multi-actor process, and provide relevant information for decarbonization. So as said, fact, evidence-based decision support. Building stock models, we worked on them, as said, for a long time. We have done this in different cities. We have a lot of experience how to do this. We are using georeference data on buildings. We are working with building characteristics, even materialization. We roughly know a lot about U values when buildings have been renovated. We're chipping in different data sources from Landmaterial and other data that we can get hold on, put it into a building stock model, and then coming up with building energy demand maps, for instance, of the city of Gothenburg. Roughly the workflow, this is what I already showed you. I will just, due to time reasons, flip through it very fast. So we have the different information from the company register, city-owned data, that we chip into this model, where we, last but not least, really also can run different scenarios. And this has been mentioned earlier this morning, digital twin also in terms of analytics. Use data to do scenario work on energy, greenhouse gas emissions, as well as costs. And we also have information on climate, how the climate will develop in the future. So this is what we done in stakeholder workshops. We worked on different energy scenarios, how they would look like. The lighter blue ones are scenarios that we have built into our digital twin energy that I will show you in a sec. So we worked on increased urban density. We will have to build more buildings, include them into the city. How would this affect also the inner climate and the climate change impacts as well? The world becomes warmer, climate will change, and how will this affect also in the future? So we worked on climate warming impacts on the energy demand. If it warms up, what would this mean actually? And we have the different IPCC, International Panel on Climate Change, scenarios of heating, and what would this mean in terms of energy demand for our building stock in the city of Gothenburg. So we worked here with a participatory approach with challenges and actions. We had the city on board, we had the municipal-owned housing company on board, etc., etc. Many of these stakeholders to identify drivers for change and what kind of actions would be needed. And then the digital twin viewer to visualize the results and test also this kind of platform for scenario evaluation and decision-making process. These are just a few images that show you how we worked. Actually here at this place, we used the visual arena and the rooms beside to work also on workshops, but also up there in Universium. And now maybe it's good time to show you how this works. And this is the digital twin energy that we developed. So you can see roughly that we are working on energy demand. We have renewable energy and renovation scenarios. We can choose different indicators that we would like to have visualized. Is it final energy, primary energy, greenhouse gas emissions? We can do this for the city today, how Gothenburg City looks like today. We can also do it for the city of 2050, looking how it will look like in the future. And then you click on scenarios and then you will get the results. You can dive into this and see a little bit how it works. We can do this for the entire city. We can also handpick individual buildings that we would like to look into. This is the energy demand, for instance, of one of this, the heating demand for this stadium, Ullevi, that you can see, and how it works over the different months of the year. What is the energy consumption? And you can also do this on a grid level. You can do this for your portfolio. If you are a building owner and have 50 buildings, you can handpick them and get an overview on a portfolio level on your heating energy demand or the others. And renovation as well. What would happen if you renovate your facades? If you would change windows, you would see the effect also on the different indicators that you have chosen. I think time-wise, I should move forward, but I cannot stop the video. So you just have to enjoy the video, follow it a little bit. Here you see the color schemes obviously are showing the different energy demands. You can also work on energy classifications. This is also data that we use. The energy performance certificates have been fed into this model as well. Yes.
We are doing a research project about the energy demand for the buildings in the town and a digital twin.
Today we have our final meeting with our reference group and project team in our project Digital Twins for Energy. City has really high climate goals, and this research project is trying to support the city and achieving those goals.
I mean, we stand for big challenges in climate change and how to change our energy system to be less harmful to the environment, reduce our energy use. And this project is a small part, but important part in how we can visualize energy use in the city and kind of help stakeholders to kind of make decisions about how to change the energy system.
So the Digital Twin Energy Project is about to enable different stakeholders group to talk about energy consumption, decarbonization strategies, and visualize these kind of results.
There are many very interesting challenges to work on when it comes to this kind of technology, where we have a lot of data that we need to show in a digital tool. What we can see is that looking at complex scenario data will actually enable people to understand a lot about the future of energy.
The community has to optimize, and we need to see what is worth and not worth doing, changing our energy use today. We need to understand what can be effective measures and less effective measures. And we want to be less energy dependent in a number of ways, and we don't want to emit as much carbon dioxide as we do today.
Good, and then we come to the last slide of my presentation to sum everything up. So as you can see, is that the digital twin is really an appropriate and tailored vehicle to support participatory processes. It was an eye-opener for many stakeholders to sit the first time together and really talk and see immediately the effects of different decisions that they are responsible for. Data gathering, sharing is still the largest challenge. And let's look a little bit ahead. What are next steps? Implementation strategy. We need to work and will work stronger and more on the district level, higher LOD levels. And in the Digital for Pets project, we will work here on Jettestein to really show how a digital twin can help the decision makers and stakeholders to transfer a building to a positive energy district. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Sharing cities, sustainable lifestyles, health and well-being. Well, I represent Sweco. We're a very large architecture and engineering consultancy. So, of course, we work with digital twins, mostly in the planning process for municipalities seeking to reduce the impact on the environment from planning and from construction, obviously. But today, I want to focus on the people side of this. I want to make this mind shift, which is important for architects, to actually look at how people in the city are able to engage in their cities. And we've spoken this morning, we've heard the keynotes addressing the different stakeholders sharing this cake, you can see. And I think it is important to see how can we make it valuable for citizens, for individuals to actually use the digital twin. So also this is very particularly important when we start seeing the city as a circular city where resources also include people. What are the assets beyond the material resources that we can recycle and make use of in a city? We need to find a new economy for this, and this new economy needs to engage the people who are actually living in the cities. And municipalities are extremely aware of this. They are part of the city's mission, where they need to plan. Okay, we go back to the planning. They need to plan cities that really accelerate climate transition. But it also means that municipalities they are not in control of all our resources, are they? They're not in control of our behavior, of our choices in terms of transport, how much electricity we actually use at home. A lot of these things are very difficult to control. And this means that municipalities actually need to reach out. This is the biggest challenge. How do you engage the citizens themselves? So municipalities are planning, but they're also in charge of servicing the cities. No, are they? Or is it our cities? I mean, how can we make the digital twin a meeting place between the municipal need and my needs as a citizen? How can I become an active citizen and not just a passive receiver of services from the city? Because the cities won't be able to afford giving us all these services anyway. We worked a few years on something called Sharing Cities Sweden, with test beds, for example, in Stockholm, which I was in charge of. And we worked on the city district of Hammarby Sjöstad, an eco district, central Stockholm, with citizens making workshops with families. Like here you see a girl learning to assemble an air quality sensor that, of course, she would put on her balcony. And the balcony is in the city district. So we made a digital twin where we would be flying. We were flying over the city of Stockholm, and you see these clouds, which means that the air quality is green. With reference to the previous speakers, we chose this to show that, yeah, not so bad, but it's a start of engaging the citizens who live in this city block. So we chose to engage with people really where they might be interested. Their own housing association in the neighborhood. So what else could interest these people? Well, there were a lot of different aspects of everyday life, which relates to how you can prompt engagement to can you produce local food? Can you change the way you're thinking about how you move in the city? All these nudging issues mean that you need to engage with your neighbors, perhaps. And this whole idea of a sharing city is very linked to the concept of trusting those that you live nearby. So we worked on this project, identifying a few of the blocks where we thought we could work more specifically together with the residents. For example, by suggesting that there could be an underground, instead of having parking spaces, maybe you could work with hydroponic urban food production. And maybe the residents in the building could somehow subscribe to a system where they would have a stake in this production and maybe in other resources as well. Let's think about it. It's their building, it's their home environment. So why is it so anonymous? How much energy you're consuming, how much, all these things. You can bring it into a new economic model. And you could also maybe make it very visible, understandable to people. We took this space that we had. Therefore, this is part of the digital twin, a space where they could have their meetings. Maybe you see these Zoom signs here in the background. These boards. So it was a kind of meeting place. Also, the COVID was coming at this time. So people couldn't have the physical meetings with their neighbors. So we thought by making a shared virtual space, maybe they could both see where there are charging capacities locally or anything else, noise levels. There is no end to how much we can represent in a digital twin. But you can also, of course, share other kinds of data in a virtual space. So I'm showing you this only because if we're going to interest citizens, we need to think of how we do that. What is the interface of the digital twin going out to people? As an architect, I thought it was interesting that we worked with a spatial representation. So how much spatial could we put in there? How much virtual can you get? We're inside a space where we're meeting our neighbors, hopefully. Okay. Also, this thing about if we can produce food, how does our system look? How much food should we produce, and how do you access that food? So, I'm talking about some kind of circular urban economy emerging, which is my interest. So, this is where we are heading now in my research. How do you create sufficient interest in a shared economy of resources, so that you strengthen a local community and an understanding of how you can reduce the impact on the environment. A few words on another project called AI Food, where in fact we used AI to try to optimize the urban food production and energy needed for this food production in a city district, where, as a coincidence, Sweco is also, the headquarters of Sweco is situated there. But the idea here was to bring a lot of different kinds of data together. And like has been addressed earlier, very difficult to access this, all these data sources. To get the possibility of bringing them together means a lot of work in identifying who owns and can it be shared, etc. But we did some proof of concepts in this respect in this project, which really is rooted then in the idea that local production of urban greens can be beneficial to people living in a neighborhood, but also in a high rise, you have a lot of carbon dioxide being produced by the office floors in the city. And that is exactly what these greens need to grow. So here starts the system. What else do they need? They need nutrition from water coming in here. how can we balance this system in the city district in a way that it generates something beneficial also for residents or those who work maybe on these office floors? So that was the idea. You need to take a system approach on this in order to create this digital twin that will then be useful. It can be useful for the real estate owners, also for the tenants. But the trick would be how to create the system, or how to share this somehow with the people who will be maybe consuming this. Could it be that at the end of the week, if your sort of your behavior this week, that's something that you would not charge, you would be able to charge your car or get some greens on Friday if you had collected some points. You know where I'm heading? Some kind of prompting app that you would, or a community that you will join because you're interested in making a change in your own lifestyle, but also contributing to the local community. So to do this, we needed to find ways of visualizing, of course, the system, what is going on here. We had live cameras going into the urban food production, and you could also see samples of the energy production. It turns out that Sweco on the roof has solar panels, but how little or how much do they actually produce? Well, only sufficiently to run the lifts in the building. But what is the potential if you start saying that the roof could actually produce much more energy? How can we optimize the system? That's what we were asking ourselves. But to really look at the benefit from the people side again, here is the idea that we have this app, a possible app called Earn It, which comes funny in Swedish because it's with an Ö. But how can you earn, what is your contribution to the system as an individual? And what do you get back at the end of the week? So it could be that it's just a commercial marketplace like this, but it could mean that you bring in a lot of other factors here. Like if you can start planning when we based our AI here, which I won't go into any of these charts, it's not interesting here, but we based our AI on the fact that if you take 100 cars that needed to be charged in the week, how much solar does the roof need to produce? How much greens can we produce based on the system? And therefore, as you see, possibly, if we bring all these things together, we can maybe create services where people themselves are part of the development of a more local, trust-building neighborhood. And we couldn't do this without the digital twin, of course. So I'm stopping here. Thank you.